It didn't give me an option as to where this was recording, so hopefully it'll be in the right spot. All right, well, welcome to Mindset Monday. My name is Selena, and I have been listening to Lewis Howes and reading or listening to his book, The Greatness Mindset. And he did a podcast recently about a couple of chapters in the book, and this is where I got this information from. But I do talk about this a lot in some of the training I do, coaching I do with women, as far as what our fear of failure really means. And Lauren, I can just see you because you were speaking earlier. If you could just mute yourself, I appreciate it. So my goal for this is to give you a different perspective on failure and use our past failures. I can still hear your background, Lauren. You could just click the mute. Sorry, I don't know why it's like giving me feedback. All right, perfect. Thank you. So how we can use failure as a valuable learning opportunity and not something to be feared or avoided. Now, failure and fear go hand in hand. The fear of failure, though, is inevitable. It's human. So when you have that fear or you are hesitating to do something because you're afraid of failing, just know that that's like 100% normal and that's okay. But it's truly how we grow. So by embracing failure, we can build resilience, creativity, the willingness to take risks, which all of these things are essential for achieving success. And if you see me looking down, it's just because I have notes, because like I said, I grabbed this off of a recent podcast and I think it was chapter 4 through 6 in Lewis Howes's book. So success is in the process, not in the outcome. And we talk a lot about this, not attaching ourselves to the outcome, but to find joy in the process. But when you do this, when you actually can do this, and I preach this, I coach this, and it's a lot easier to talk about it than to do it. I get it, right? I get it. But when you can focus on the process, it gives your ability to have self-worth dependent not on the outcome, but it makes you free to invite and enjoy that failure. And again, the process of failure is where we learn. It is a stepping stone. So that's what I'm going to try to flip the script and help you in your brain flip the script on what failure and fear of failure actually is. So in the book, he talks about a doubt diagram. And if you take a piece of paper and were to write 3 interlocking circles, you have the fear of failure in like the top circle, right? And then there's a couple other fears that he talks about. We're going to predominantly in this, hey, Nikki, just focus on the fear of failure, but he also talks about the fear of success and the fear of judgment. And where those 3 things kind of, like that center point where they intersect is self-doubt. All right. So our relationship with fear is described in his book like an overbearing partner. It literally dictates all of your actions. And until you break up with that, overbearing partner and break up with fear, your self-doubt, that center of the 3 fears, is going to inhibit and have an effect on everything you do in life and prevent you from leading a purposeful life. So when you think about focusing and serving others and break up with those fears that are holding you back, you are free now to pursue that purpose and embrace failure as a necessary step towards growth. Now, we have spoken about, I've done trainings on, finding your purpose and really honing in on that. When you are stumbling, when those fears show up to hold you back from doing the things that you know that you should be doing, to go back to that purpose. But in listening to this podcast about the book, I heard it presented in a different way that I really, like when you hear something differently, that it just like kind of hits. And in this, think about a time that you, or something that you're afraid of. Why or what is it that you are afraid of? And this was some of the thoughts that I have. How might I look stupid? How might I feel if I fail? How might I make a mistake? And when you think about those things, everything is centered around I, right? It's all about me. And it's kind of a selfish approach if you are coming from a place of service, right? So if you focus on the serving of others and flip the script as to why you're doing it and how you can make it about that service to others, then what? What's the choice after that choice, right? Then it becomes more about serving others, and your fears aren't as important. When you flip the script, regret of not trying, you can see, is much worse than those, silly fears, because it really is all about then what the choice is after the choice, like what comes next. And we're going to do a little exercise at the end and kind of hone in on this more, so that you'll walk away with some tools that you can use after this. So, overcoming fear of failure for success. If you think about it, defeat and failure really is a blessing. And there are so many stories that he talks about in the book, about different people, like the woman who created Spanx, the woman that is the It Makeup, that sold It Makeup for like $1.2 billion to Maybelline, I think it was. All of these stories about the fear of failure, defeat and failure being a blessing for like what's next, right? And it's because failure is a teacher. It shows you what you can improve upon, and what you can do differently next time. And that is why it is a blessing. It's how we grow. And just so you know, everything is difficult at first. Like, no one was born a marathon runner, right? We don't even know how to crawl when we're born. When we're little, as adults, we encourage babies to keep trying, because we know that they're going to get it. They don't have a fear of failure. It's somewhere in the transition from being a child to an adult that we think trying over and over again becomes a bad thing, right? But when you focus on the fact that, you're gonna suck when you start, then you can break through, to what comes after. And this cycle is a wave.
Yes.
Nikita, thank you, my dear. So this is a wave, and it's in these dips, it's in these lulls in the wave where the learning takes place. If you come from a place when you start something, or when you're thinking about starting something new, that failure isn't inevitable, it's kind of like how we go for the no, failure is inevitable, then you can focus more on making a habit of trying new things. Because when you do this and get out of your comfort zone and get more in the habit and more comfortable with being out of your comfort zone, then you are going to increase your ability of success. So there's a spot in the book where they talk about this, a woman who, I think it's the woman who created Spanx, how she, had many people turn her down for her product idea before it was actually adopted and, turned into the crazy huge company that everyone is copying now in the marketplace. She says every successful person has had failure along the way to success. So why should you be any different? because everybody else has been down this road. So this is an exercise that I think is very important and is very helpful, that if you've got a pen and paper, let's do this. So it's what I call borrowing from your past to close the gap. And it's the gap between failure and success. When you can close that gap, will improve and increase your self-worth and crush that self-doubt that you have about even starting in the first place. So think back to your past failures. So if you take a moment to sit and meditate and just think back to some past failures that you've had, what happened next? What came next after that? I'm pretty sure that 8 out of 10 of them, the next thing that happened was a success. But if you start from the failure point and think from that point towards a success, you might find it kind of difficult to actually find those failures. If I were to say, think back to your past successes, you probably right off the top of your head could think of a handful of successes that you had, but think back to the failures that you had first. It's going to take a little bit more of the thought process, because our brain, it gets rid of those bad experiences and replaces it, like what you remember from that moment is the success, right? But try and think back from the success to the failure that happened right before it, and leading up to that success. Write them down. And then think about how you felt after. Again, did you think about the failure that you had before or the success? What did you learn in between the two? What did you do differently? And how long did it take? And that part, this part is quite interesting, because if you think about it from the success point and not the failure point, the time frame gets a lot shorter. And this is a good thing. This is a good thing, because when you're in the process, it feels like it's forever. But after the fact, the point between failure and success is actually much shorter. So then what happened afterwards? Right? Did you die? No. I always like thinking about like the then what? Then am I going to die? No, I might just, have to dust myself off. Maybe I need to take a day to cry in my bed. I don't know. But, you are going to wake up the next day. And then what I want you to think about, whatever it was that you feared and you had that failure, might have just been a little blip. It doesn't have to be like a complete rock bottom failure, but just like a little blip before your success. Do you still have fear around whatever it was? And let me give you an example. When I first started competitive bodybuilding, I, went through the whole, I had like an 8-month process where I lost a bunch of weight, and then I had to gain muscle, and like everyone that I saw was like, oh my God, what the heck are you doing? Because I like physically looked like crazy different. And I had done all of the things to get to the point of getting on stage and going to my first competition. And I felt really good about it until I got there. And I started looking around and comparing myself to all the other women that were there. I was in my late 30s. They were all in their early 20s. And I was like, I've lost my mind. What the heck am I doing here? Why am I in clear heels and a little blue sparkly bikini, gonna be judged by a bunch of men that I don't know? Like, what the hell am I thinking? Like, why did I think this was a good idea? And I went on stage and I like walked like a man on stage, not like pretty flowy like all of these, young chicks. And I got last place. I mean, like dead last. Actually, it was second to last, but the girl who got last place didn't even come back for the finals. So I got last place by default. And I, and after the, after the fact, I realized it was my fear. Like I literally was like a deer in headlights and showed that fear to everybody on the panel and everyone in the audience. I had already been defeated before I walked on stage because it was like walking into it and seeing all of these other women there, right? That fear led to the outcome, but in that moment, I said, this is not who I am. This is not who I am. I am going to come back and I'm going to crush it. And, I made a plan, like what next show 6 weeks later I was going to come back to. I actually put myself in a higher category that was even more difficult than the bikini that I had started in. I switched over to figure competitor. It was a little bit more fitting for my body type. And every night, and I've talked about this before, I did a 30-second visualization, which if you went through my Plan Your Success training series in the beginning of the year, we did this. And I wrote it down and became like a movie trailer in my head of me winning first place, the weight of the trophy, the, cheer from the crowd, my family hugging me, just all of the sights and the smells and like the taste of like the juicy burger I was going to eat afterwards as my reward, like all of the things. And 6 weeks later, I came back and I went on stage a much different person. Now, my training didn't change, my meals didn't change, like all of the things that you do in between, the process didn't change, but my mindset changed around it because this time before I got on stage, I had already won. I wasn't attached to the outcome because in my mind, I'd already won. I'd envisioned it so many times every night for 6 weeks that my body just knew what to do. The process and everything else was where it needed to be. It was just my mindset and my attachment to the outcome that had changed. Did not have the fear of failure because, well, I already failed. I already got last place. So, what's the worst that could happen? But that didn't even cross my mind because I had already won. And I, in fact, got first place in show. First place in 2 categories. Big trophy. It was huge. It was massive. It's awesome. She looks like a gladiator. And that 30-second visualization that I did every night is you close that gap that we talk about between failure and success for me. So you can use these things that you wrote down and kind of carry them with you the next time you feel that fear of failure. Maybe it's because you haven't done it before. I mean, when we start something new, it's scary, right? But if you steal from your past failures, the fact that you didn't die and that you had, it wasn't that long between a failure and success. If you steal from those past experiences and apply them to whatever you're starting new, then you can kind of borrow confidence, because that's what it comes down to. That self-doubt is because of a lack of confidence in the new situation, right? So try that. And really, I feel it's helpful to write it down first. Visualize, write it down, carry it with you. And then you can do that mental picture, that 30-second movie trailer in your head after you've written it down. And if you haven't gone through the Plan Your Success training series, then let me know. I can tag you in it. It's in our group. It's there for you. You can download the workbook and all that kind of stuff that's got the little fill in the blank sort of things so that you can create your 30-second movie trailer. But you can do this for anything that you have a fear around, whether it's, business related, it's in your personal life, it's a personal goal, whatever it is. Fear creeps up in the craziest of places, but it's normal and it's part of the growing process. If you don't do anything that makes you a little bit scared and a little bit uneasy, then you're not going to grow and you're going to lead a stagnant life. And I know that's not any of you ladies that are on here, because we all want big things and we are all here to improve ourselves. But having said that, then fear of failure and this is going to creep in. So if you have a tool to use so you can overcome it quicker, then I think that that really will set you up for success. All right, that's all I have for you. So I'll open up to any questions that you have, any comments. Feel free to unmute yourself because I don't have those controls on my phone. Lindsay.
Failure is your teacher.
Mhm.
That just really hit it for me.
Yep.
That, you know, it's like sometimes things just really hit. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. Let it be your teacher.
Yeah. 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 I don't know why that just really, because teachers in school and anytime I was being, you know, was educated, you know, I guess I maybe just didn't really think that they were where you wanted to go in life anyway. So why would I want to listen to them? I'd rather listen to my own failures. I just love that.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that too.
Thank you, Selena. This is really, really good. Looking back, the failure, because, you know, I grew up in a place where they don't see like what success is, what you can do. And I know I fail from anything and everything. But now where I am at, I'm not like a millionaire, but I see the success of my life. It's moving forward. I'm not going back. So I'm not looking back. I learned from my failure. Ugh, can't even say.
Mhm.
It's like teaching me the way to move forward. Like I'm not looking back and say, yeah, I was like that person before. But those are the things I look back and it guides me to where I'm at. So it's almost like what you're teaching, like what I was listening today with Aunt Milet. It's almost like the same thing. Was really, really good. So thank you. That's my little comment.
Thanks, Talita. Anyone else? And Angela, I'll get with you to see how I can help.
Selena, this was great. It's just coming on the heels of me listening to Ed Milet's series about, you know, about mindset and everything. And I love the whole movie trailer concept. Yeah.
Yeah, I get into a little bit more in the Plan Your Success training series, how that works and like when you should do it in the day to really plug into your subconscious. The script I created, but I have borrowed it from like, you know, all of the mindset teachers of the past, you know what I mean? But Ed Milet did an interview with Lewis Howes that's really good. I love Ed Milet too. I just been listening to Lewis Howes recently. So I didn't see the podcast that you dropped, but I'm sure I've heard it. So I'm sure some of this could have came from that too. All right. Anyone else? It's pleasure seeing you, Nikki.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Didn't even see your best friend with her hand up. Anna,
No,
put my hand up.
I
Shame
can't
on
see
you.
everybody.
I'm literally sat in the car eating, Lindsay knows what these are, Percy Pigs from M&S. I love that. And it's, sorry? Yeah, it's fine. They're okay. This is being recorded, Jalita. Yeah, I'm picking Lily up in a minute, but I'm just sat in the car. But yeah, it's so true. And I think as well, like you have to have self-belief in yourself. Like you do. I know that I'm not going to fail. Like I know it because of what we've done in Plan Your Success and all the visualizations, and it's true. You visualize something that much that you know you're not going to fail. You're only going to win.
Well, little blips along the way, you know, are going to happen. And I think it's more of like like just going into it, just knowing it's inevitable that's going to happen. Well, you mean like overall you're not going to fail, but there's going to be like those little hiccups along the way. That's why it's like this.
Yeah, but then you grow. That's growth.
Right. Yep. They're stepping stones, those little blips.
But thank you for this. It was great.
You're welcome. Well, thank you all, ladies. I'm going to stop the recording.